Rejoice, everyone. We're back with another Sekhie Reacts to Fate. Genuinely, I don't know why I didn't fight for this one to be included with another video.
Yeah, I really don't know. However, we're back with pirates.
Yar har fiddly dee.
What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? All right, so Bartholomew Roberts. I feel like, so we've already, in an earlier video, I talked about the golden age of piracy, so I don't feel the need to go back into the history of those events, but just keep in mind he was active during the golden age of piracy, that brief kind of space from like 1718, 1719 to like 1720 something, like the very brief period that's known as the golden age of piracy. And he is one of the most prolifically successful pirates that we know of in the entire world, only rivaled by Sir Henry Morgan and a few other really famous names. I mean, if you expand it to the whole world, probably include, like, there's a couple of Chinese pirates, probably some Indian Ocean pirates, but largely, I mean, he was very successful. I mean, it's said that he plundered over 400 different ships during the time that he was a pirate. And that's a lot for a relatively small amount of time that he was really active, because he didn't become a pirate until a little bit later in life. And so, he was a little bit older. And he did end up shot in 1722. I mean, Grapeshot took him out during a battle when he was age 39 near Gabon. So, he's also called Black Bart. That was one of his monikers. And he is super popular because guess who he inspired in famous pop culture?
Does his name rhyme with hack, barrel? I doubt it, but... No, who do you inspire in pop culture?
The Dread Pirate Roberts.
Okay, I was like, I'm trying to think of pop culture pirates here, and the only one I can think of is Jack Sparrow, but...
I don't know if he inspired Jack
Probably
Sparrow.
Not.
But,
I know someone did inspire him.
Yeah, but definitely the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride. A piece of pop culture that I actually do not enjoy, and that has made many people be like, why? And the answer is, I just don't like it.
You're lucky there's no knives in my reach.
Do you like it?
I love Princess Bride. I watched it I did a screening with, like, the actor that plays, God, he's a big name actor. You actually like the actor.
Oh, yeah. You messaged me about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carrie Ells?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he plays, what's his face in that movie? See, the thing is, I read the book first when I was younger, and I never really liked, the book was not all that fun for me to read. And I didn't actually watch the movie until probably like 3 or 4 years ago. And I think at that point I had just passed the age of which I was going to find that funny. And I don't really have any nostalgia attached to it. Because I didn't enjoy the book when I was younger. And then I didn't watch the movie.
See, I didn't watch the movie until I was like 16 or 17.
Well, and there's funny parts of the movie. I don't deny that. Like, there are certain parts of the movie that I quote that are funny. I just don't like watching the movie very much. I think it just doesn't... It's just not up my alley. It's not quite the right, combination of...
Preposterous.
Inconceivable. My name is Sekhie. You killed my favorites. Prepare to die.
Inconceivable.
We're both making references here. You would think I liked it with as many references as I could use from it, but nope. All right, so... Bartholomew Roberts was born in, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, a small town near Pembrokeshire in Wales. Welsh name. And to be quite frank, I'm pretty sure I'd butcher it, as I would butcher it if I tried to read the memorial stone to him that is placed at this town, written in Welsh. I don't care.
Try to pronounce it.
No.
Please, come on, I need this.
In this village, the famous pirate Black Bart was born, is what it says. No, I'm not gonna offend the Welsh people.
They literally named a town like something 50 characters long just because they thought it was funny for tourists.
Yeah, Lunfair something.
I don't care about offending Welsh people. They know what they're doing.
Well, I mean, I would assume it's Kasnaweed Bach, but that would just be my assumption. Um, so he was born in around 1682. Some sources say May 17th, 1682. To a father. His father's name was probably George Roberts. We don't know why he changed his last name from, we don't know why he changed his first name from John to Bartholomew, but it was pretty common of pirates during this era to adopt aliases to slightly change one of their names. And honestly, he may have taken that following a buccaneer who was called Bartholomew Sharp, who was more famous. So it's said that he went to start his naval career, marine career at the age of 13 in about 1695, but we don't actually have any record of him until 1718 when he was on a Barbados sloop as one of the mates there. So in 1719, we know that he was the second mate on the slave ship Princess, which was captained by Abraham Plum. And in early June of that year, they were anchored at Anamabu, at that time spelled Anamaboa, which is along the Gold Coast of Africa, and she was captured by pirates at this time. Those pirates were using two vessels called the Royal Ranger and the Royal James, led by Captain Howell Davis. Like Roberts, Davis was also a Welshman, and he had come also from Pembrokeshire. So Roberts and several other of the crew of the Princess were forced to join the pirates. After that, it was pretty quickly discovered that Roberts had really good navigational capabilities, and he was often consulted when it came to navigation. He was able to also the captain was also able to confide information to Roberts in Welsh, keeping it hidden from the English and international crewmen because they did not speak Welsh. It's said that Roberts may have been reluctant to become a pirate at first, but it didn't take very long for him to kind of see the advantages and opportunities that this new career path could offer him. There's a report of him from the General History of Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates, which was written by Captain Charles Johnson, that says, "In an honest service there is thin commons, low wages, and hard labor. In this plenty and satiety, pleasure and ease, liberty and power, and who would not balance creditor on this side when all the hazard that is run for, at the worst is only a sour look or two at the choking. No, a merry life and a short one shall be my motto." Right, so why live a long life scraping over debts and stuff like that when you can live a short life but have a really merry and sort of fun one, I guess, is the sort of thing. So when Roberts was in the Merchant Navy at this time, theoretically, his wage per month would have been about £4. And in 2021 currency, that would have been about £681 a month. So not a lot. There was also no chance of an advance to the position of captain in the Merchant Navy for him. So a few weeks after he was captured, the Royal James was abandoned because of worm damage, and the Royal Rover headed for the island of Principe. At this point, Davis hosted the flags of a British man of war and was allowed to enter the harbor. A few days later, he invited the governor to lunch on board the ship with the full intention of holding him hostage for a ransom on board the ship. However, Davis had to send boats to collect the governor, and he was actually invited to call at the fort for a glass of wine first. It turns out that the Portuguese, who were manning the fort, had discovered that Davis's crew was a crew of pirates. They ambushed the party on the way to the fort, shooting him dead during the ambush. After this, they had to elect a new captain aboard the ship, and the crew was divided into lords and commons. Lords who were allowed to propose a new name to the rest of the crew, and commons who could vote on that. Within 6 weeks of the capture, Roberts was elected captain.
Could you tell they're British?
Yeah, right? This is really weird. Like 6 weeks into being crewed on a pirate ship and you're elected captain, like you did some serious networking. Most modern historians attribute this to his personality and navigational abilities, because that could really have been the only reason. Like, this man had to be charismatic as all fuck and a really good navigator, which was one of the most important roles on a ship. I mean, if you get lost, you're nowhere, but if you can stay, if you know where you are, you're kind of good. So his first act as captain was to go back to Principe and avenge the death of Davis. He and his crew landed in the darkness of night, killing a massive selection of the male population and stealing all items of value that they could carry away. Soon afterwards, he captured another ship, a Dutch Guineaman, and then a British ship called the Experiment. The pirate ship took on water and provisions at Anamboe, where a vote was taken whether they were going to Brazil or the East Indies next, and they decided they were going to Brazil. This combination of success and sort of like the willingness to go and do these things so without fear, right? Like he was willing to go in and attack and kind of to take like valid action, kind of marked him. His crew called him pistol proof, right, and said that they had a lot to gain by staying with him. And it was at this point that he began to create his first pirate flags. He had some of the earliest designs of Jolly Rogers. His first flag was him and Death holding an hourglass together. His second flag had him holding a flaming sword standing on two skulls. One said ABH, the other one said AMH, and it meant a Barbadian head and a Martinique head. So like in kind of intimidating that these are the heads of someone from Barbados and someone from Martinique, and he's conquered them both. Eventually, there is a very famous flag attributed to him, which is Death on it holding an hourglass and crossed bones with a red heart and a spear or arrow stabbing down into it with 3 drops of blood. However, according to the Boston Gazette in 1720, he also flew a black flag that just had a skull and a cutlass underneath it. And at one point, it was also said that he flew a flag that kind of had him with the flaming sword, but not standing on the skulls, but Death was reaching out to him on the other side of the flag. So he had like a number of different flags, and they were all fairly intricate and kind of very recognizable, like meant to symbolize certain things. So, they had voted to head down to the Caribbean. So in 1719, July of 1719, they headed down towards the Caribbean. They crossed the Atlantic and ended up in the uninhabited island of Ferdinando, where they spent 9 weeks off the Brazilian coast and saw 0 ships the whole time. So they were going to head back to the West Indies when eventually they encountered a fleet of over 42 Portuguese ships in the Todos os Santos Bay, who were waiting for 2 men of war to escort them to Lisbon. Roberts took one of the vessels and ordered her master to show him the richest ship in the entire fleet, which was called the Sagrada Familia. It had 40 guns and a crew of 170. He boarded and captured this ship, which contained over 40,000 gold moidores and jewelry designed for the King of Portugal, including a very elaborate cross set with diamonds in it. Next, he took the Royal Rover and headed for the Devil's Island off the coast of Guyana to spend his 40,000 golden coins. A little bit later, they headed down to the River Suriname, where they captured another sloop, and after they sighted a brigantine, he took 40 men to pursue it in the sloop, leaving Walter Kennedy in command of the Royal Rover. They were unfortunately windbound for 8 days, and when they finally got back to their ship, they discovered Kennedy had sailed off with the rover and all the remains of the loot. Do not put someone you do not trust in charge. If you trust them, don't. You're pirates. Life lessons. Roberts and his crew would then rename their sloop, the captured one, the Fortune, and agreed on a new set of crew articles, now known as Pirate Code, that's what we call them, and they swore on the Bible to uphold these. Roberts was one of the earliest adopters of his own individual code of, Pirates Code. In 1720, they joined French pirate Montagnier La Palisse, who had another sloop called the Sea King. The inhabitants of Barbados, that they were kind of terrorizing, equipped 2 ships, the Somerset and Philippa, to try to put an end to their menace. But when when the 2 pirate ships encountered these ships, the Sea King, captained by the Frenchmen, broke and fled, and the Fortune ended up breaking after sustaining considerable damage and escaping. Then he headed for Dominica to repair the sloop, with 20 of his crew dying of their wounds on this voyage. There were also 2 sloops out from Martinique searching for the pirates, and Roberts would end up swearing vengeance against the inhabitants of Barbados and Martinique, this leading to him creating the flag with the AMH and ADH, or ABH, heads underneath his feet. In 1720, summer of 1720, he took the Fortune and headed towards Newfoundland, raiding across Nova Scotia and capturing a large selection of ships near Cape Breton on the Newfoundland banks. They raided the Harbour of Ferryland, capturing over a dozen vessels, and eventually would attack the larger harbour of Trepassey with black flags flying. In there, he discovered 150 fishing ships and a number of merchant vessels. All of them were abandoned by their panic-stricken crews and captains at the time, and they became the masters of this port with no resistance. He had captured 22 merchant ships, but he was real mad because the cowardice of the captains who all fled their ships. So every morning he would fire a gun, and the captains were forced to come and attend him on board his ship, and they were told that if anyone was absent from this morning meeting, his ship would be burnt. One ship from Bristol was taken over by the pirates to replace the sloop Fortune and fitted out with 16 guns. And eventually, when they left in late June, all other vessels in the harbor were set on fire as they left, just to complete the destruction. In July, he captured 9 or 10 French ships, commandeering one of them, changing her name to the Good Fortune, outfitting her with cannons. And using this more powerful ship, they captured many more vessels before heading back down to the West Indies, once again accompanied by Montagnier La Palisse's ship, who had rejoined them at this point after fleeing. So in 1720, unfortunately, they were careened and had to be repaired at the island of Cariaco before being renamed the Royal Fortune, which was the first of several ships to be given this name by Robert. So it just became kind of like a heritage name.
You really like that name.
I mean, it's a good name, Royal Fortune. Yeah. So in September, Royal Fortune and the Fortune, which was the other captured ship, ended up headed for St. Christopher's and entered Basse-Terre Road, flying their black flags, and with their drummers and trumpeters playing, they would sail among the ships on the road, all of which promptly stuck their flags. Their next landfall was at St. Bartholomew, where the French governor allowed them to remain for several weeks to carouse in the city. By the time October hit, they were off to sea near St. Lucia, where they captured about 15 French and English ships in the next 3 days. So this man, prolific and successful. Among those captured ships was the Greyhound, whose chief mate, James Skyrm, joined the pirates, and he became the captain of Robert's other ship, the Ranger, later. During this time, he supposedly caught Florimond Hurault de Montigny, the governor of Martinique, who was sailing aboard a French warship, and hanged on the yardarm of his own ship, which the pirates then converted into the new Royal Fortune, Bartholomew Roberts' new flagship. According to several people, this was actually embellished by Captain Charles Johnson in his General History of Pirates, as French sources say that while Roberts did capture and torture some French officials by pretending to hang them, he did in fact release them, and Hurault was not among them. So whether or not this actually happened could have been made up for this general pirates history written by this one person. By spring of 1721, he had almost brought seaborne trade to a standstill in the West Indies due to his reign of terror. And let me tell you, you have to be pretty damn impressive to bring seaborne trade in the West Indies to a standstill. Because of this, he took his ships and set sail for West Africa.
Once you start building too much reputation, you gotta get out of there.
No, there just weren't any ships left for him to rob.
Oh.
He literally robbed so many people, there wasn't anyone left to rob. Thomas Anstis, who was the commander of the Good Fortune, left Roberts in the night and continued to raid shipping in the Caribbean with the future captains John Fenn and Brigstock Weaver aboard, while Royal Fortune continued on to Africa. He does not have good luck with allies and other captains of his fleet. He tends to kind of just lose ships by giving them to the people who don't follow through, you know? By April...
How many fortunes is he on now?
Several. By April, he was in the Cape Verde Islands, and Royal Fortune was found to be leaky, and they therefore abandoned it in the islands there. They transferred over to the Sea King, which was then renamed, guess what? Royal Fortune. They made land off the Guinea coast in early June, near the Senegal River. 2 ships gave chase, but they were captured by Roberts, and both of them were commandeered. The Comte de Toulouse was renamed Ranger, and the other one was named Little Ranger and used as a store ship. Sutton was made captain of the Ranger, and James Skirm captain of the Little Ranger. Next, he headed for Sierra Leone and was told by the retired pirate Old Crackers Leadstone that there were 2 Royal Navy ships, HMS Swallow and HMS Weymouth, that had left at the end of April and were planning to return before Christmas. So on the 8th of August, he captured 2 large ships at Point Sestos, now the River Cess. One of these was the frigate Onslow, which was transporting soldiers to Cape Coast Castle. A number of these soldiers turned out that they wanted to join the pirates and were eventually accepted. However, they received only a quarter of the pirates' pay because they were not sailors and therefore just didn't have the expertise, so they had to be trained. Onslow was then converted to become, guess what? The Royal Fortune. The 4th Royal Fortune. In November and December, they basically just relaxed on their ships at Cape Lopez and just chilled out. Eventually, Sutton was replaced by Skyrm as the captain of the Ranger. In January, they captured several old vessels, eventually sailing into Ouida Harbor with black flags flying. The 11 ships there immediately struck their colors, but they were restored to their owners after a ransom of 8 pounds of gold dust per ship was paid. When the master of one of the ships refused these, Roberts had his crew climb aboard the ship and set her on fire. All these captured vessels were slave ships, and the one set on fire had about 80 enslaved Africans on board, who all perished either as a result of the fire or by drowning or shark attack after jumping overboard if they were able.
Awesome.
I really don't have a way to spin that.
No.
Man just burned like 80 people alive. Or drove them to jump into the ocean and be eaten by sharks.
Pirates.
In 1722, captain of the HMS Swallow came upon the ships Royal Fortune, Ranger, and Little Ranger at Cape Lopez. Swallow had to veer away to avoid a shawl, which made the pirates think that she was a fleeing merchant ship. That's a bad decision. Basically, although some sources say that the British ship did this on purpose to lure the pirates into giving chase because they assumed that it was a merchant ship veering away from them, some people say it was an accident that ended up just being a happy accident for the Royal Navy. Ranger departed in pursuit, and once out of earshot of the other pirates, Swallow opened up her gun ports and opened fire. 10 pirates were killed, Skirm had his leg taken off by a cannonball, and eventually Ranger was forced to strike her colors, and the surviving crew were all captured. Swallow returned to Cape Lopez on the 10th of February, finding Royal Fortune still there. On the previous day, Roberts had captured the Neptune, and most of his crew were drunk and unfit for duty because they were partying. At first, they thought the approaching ship was the Ranger, but a deserter from the Swallow recognized her and told Roberts when he was breakfasting with the master of the Neptune. As he usually did, he dressed himself in very fine clothes, which he was very well known for. Like Roberts, one of the things about him, it's very famous that he dressed in really, really nice clothing. So he took like the loot, because when you think about pirates, you think about them stealing treasure, but the thing is, most ships weren't carrying treasure, right? Unless they were specific ships bound for Europe that carried gold, most ships would have been carrying goods, not gold specifically. So one of the few things that pirates often had a lot of was fabric, right? Because fabric was taken by ships all over the world. So pirates would often have access to these really beautiful damasks and silks and fine fabrics and colorful patterns. And it actually became a thing that pirates would be like wearing these very colorful outfits made of like fine fabric because it's one of the things that they kept getting from the ships that they were attacking.
Well, even today, we remember these very complicated pirate outfits. Like, yeah. That's what's in the pop culture.
Exactly. So initially, the pirates' plan was to just sail past the Swallow, which would temporarily expose themselves broadside, but once they were past, they'd be able to escape. However, unfortunately, the helmsman failed to keep them on the right course, and the Swallow was able to broadside them a second time. Roberts was killed by grape shot, striking him in the throat, and before his body could be captured, his wish to be buried at sea with his arms and ornaments was fulfilled by his crew, who weighed his body down and threw it overboard after wrapping it in his ship's sail, and his body was never found. This was not the end of the battle. His crew kept fighting for 2 more hours until the mainmast fell, and eventually they signaled for quarter. One member of the crew actually at this point tried to blow up the ship in a form of protest, but was prevented eventually. Only 3 pirates had been killed in the battle, including Roberts. 272 were captured. 65 were former African slaves that Roberts had emancipated, and they were unfortunately sold back into slavery. The rest were taken to Cape Coast Castle. Apart from those who died on the voyage back, 54 were condemned to death, 52 were hanged, and 2 were given a reprieve out of that. 20 were allowed to sign indentures with the Royal African Company. They exchanged an immediate death for a lingering one, essentially. 17 men were sent to the Marshalsea prison in London for trial. Of the captured pirates, about 42% were from Cornwall, Devon, and Somerset, and 19% from London, and smaller numbers from all over England, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, the West Indies, the Netherlands, and Greece. The captain of the Swallow was rewarded with a knighthood, the only British naval officer to be honored for his actions against pirates specifically. He also profited financially, taking the gold dust from Robert's cabin, and eventually became an admiral.
I have to assume he was rewarded as such because not very many pirates shut down trade in the Indies.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this battle specifically did prove to be a pretty large turning point in the war against pirates, and his death does mark pretty much the end of the golden age of piracy, because his death heralded the eradication of piracy off the coast of Africa, and it actually represented a turning point in the slave trade as well, and in the larger history of capitalism. Robert's Pirate Code was pretty interesting. I do want to list off a few things from it. So the first article was that every man has a vote in affairs of movement, equal title to fresh provisions or strong liquors at any time seized, and may use them at pleasure unless scarcity makes it necessary for the good of all, which is pretty interesting. Every man is to be fairly called in turn by list on board of prizes because, over and above their proper share, they were on those occasions allowed to shift to clothes, but if they defrauded the company to the value of $1 in plate, jewels, or money, marooning was their punishment. No person to game at cards or dice for money on board the ship, which is a pretty smart decision. Lights and candles to be put out at 8 o'clock at night. If any of the crew after that hour still remained inclined for drinking, they were to do it on the open deck in the darkness. To keep their peace, pistols, cutlasses, and clean fit for service was a requirement. No boy or woman were to be allowed among them. If any man were to be found seducing any of the latter sex and carried her to sea disguised, he was to suffer death. So, fuck a woman, bring her on board, die. No striking one another on board, but every man's quarrels to be ended on shore. No man to talk of breaking up their way of living till each had shared 1,000 pounds. If in order to this any man should lose a limb or become crippled in their service, he was to have $800 out of the public stock, and for lesser hurts proportionately. That's a lot of money. It's a good payment off. Captain and quartermaster received 2 shares of prize, the master, boatswain, and gunner 1 share and a half, and all officers 1 1/4, and musicians have to rest on the Sabbath day, but the other 6 days and nights none without special favor. So most of our information on Roberts does come from the book A General History of Pirates, which was published in 1724, crediting Captain Charles Johnson as the author. However, it's often printed under the name Daniel Defoe on the assumption that Charles Johnson is a pseudonym, but we have no proof of that. Johnson actually gives more space in his book to Roberts than any other pirate. He calls him tall, black man, and by black man he means dark complexion, not black man. About 40 years of age, says he has personal bravery, but applied to wicked purposes, which therefore made his bravery of no commendation. He's often said that he wears like a bright red waistcoat with bright red pants and a scarlet flamingo plume, which may have been to disguise blood in battle, but he also reportedly wore that giant diamond cross that was supposed to be for the King of Portugal that he looted way back when. Actually, a governor from New England once made a comment after his work in Newfoundland, said, "One cannot withhold admiration for his bravery and courage." Because he did hate cowardice, and he was very clear on that. He has kind of become the archetypal pirate captain in his love of fine clothing and jewelry, but he did have a few unusual habits. He preferred tea to rum, which, okay, interesting. He was a Sabbatarian, according to some personal accounts, but there's no real proof of this. He apparently did not like drunkenness when at sea from either himself or his crew.
I assume that's what the candle rule was for.
Probably. It is ironic then that his final defeat was caused because of the drunkenness of his crew, which is rather unfortunate. Supposedly he was not super cruel to prisoners. like some of the other pirates during this time, but he did not treat them particularly well, like Samuel Bellamy or Howell Davis or Edward England.
Or the slaves aboard the slave ships.
Yeah. He sometimes would give gifts to cooperative captains and crews, like pieces of jewelry or cargo. But in general, he's just a really famous pirate. He is one of the 4 pirates mentioned in Treasure Island.
Was it Drake recently we did where there was that, like, so impressed with the captains that were just beaten that they were sent home with stuff? Was that Drake or was that someone else?
I can't remember. It might have been. But, so he's one of 4 pirates mentioned in Treasure Island. I love Treasure Island. Actually, Long John Silver in there mentions him, saying, "It was a master surgeon, him that amputated me, out of college and all, Latin by the bucket and whatnot, but he was hanged like a dog, and sun-dried like the rest at Corso Castle. That was Robert's men, that was, and combed of changing names of their ships, Royal Fortune, and so on." There's a series of historical novels featuring him as the main character. A number of novels and poems have been published in Welsh featuring him, including a ballad for which a vocal score was later composed, so it's been put to music. Dread Pirate Roberts is inspired by Bartholomew Roberts, and in 2020, the Perth Mint actually issued commemorative coins featuring the Royal Fortune and Black Bart, which I think is pretty interesting.
All right, so you want to take a crack at the class?
Ryder.
Yeah, it's a pretty damn easy one. It's a freaking pirate.
It's a pirate.
We know the direction most of these pirates are going.
Yeah, see, this is why I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, because it's Casnawed Bach is what I would assume, but...
I mean, that's what it looks like, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, all right. Oh, hey, it's not gender bent. Hey, nope. they got the tan dark skin right and all the red. I'm loving that. And the big cross.
And the dark skin. That one's impressive for Fate.
I literally said that first.
Oh.
My guy. Listening comprehension. Oh, look, the plume.
Okay, we aren't going to act like I've never said stuff that you immediately forgot that I said.
Oh, look, the plume. This is the scarlet, and the scarlet, and the cross, and the dark skin.
You got a little bit of a collared shirt there going.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I love the design. Is that a naked MASH doll?
Yes. We'll get to that.
He's drunk. Or is he...
I don't know if he's drunk or not.
Oh, boy. Well, either way, I'm loving the outfit at the very least. Man's looking very piratey. Fun and piratey.
So, meet Bartholomew Roberts. He is one of the newer low-rarity servants to FGO. I don't have many lore notes for him because he's pretty straightforward as a heroic spirit in summoning. Really, all I can note about his introduction is that he was introduced in an event that was especially non-canon, even by FGO's standards. He was later introduced into proper canon.
Okay.
And that's about it for, like, as far as straight lore goes. Personality-wise is where things get a little bit funky. He's actually kind of a humble and near seamless natural leader. But he has one of those gags that even the FGO community seems to think get a little old really quickly. He's got a very open attraction to a specific type of person that he makes abundantly and clearly apparent, bringing it up
in bangs.
Yeah,
it was
every
in his
available
likes.
Opportunity.
It was in his likes.
He will bring that up anytime he can.
The light of wisdom can be glimpsed between the gaps of her flaxen hair. Jesus.
Yeah, no, you're gonna get this from the...
All right. You're as unrefined as usual, Blackbeard. It kind of makes me jealous. Your simplicity is what makes me jealous. I'm so jealous that I might mistake this feeling for friendship between you and I. Frances Drake, she may be a ruffian, but there is definitely hidden dignity within her. I'd like to have dinner with her if I have the opportunity. What's wrong, master? You saw Blackbeard pick up a knife. Why would he do that? Oh, it's you two. Mary, do you have any intention of growing your bangs out a little more? You there, care to tell me your name? Fran. I see.
Suddenly remembering these designs as we're getting these lines.
The Duchess of Russia. Fuma. Your eyes are covered impressively. You are, I see, Fuma Kotaro. I'd love to hear some stories about Japan if you don't mind. We could tour about my ship.
So he's not particular about gender, by the way. That is not a gender bend.
We love a bisexual king. We love a bisexual king.
Bang sexual.
Bang and bisexual king. We love it. We love this. All right. So I see abilities here.
Yeah, so he has some pretty standard pirate armaments. Cutlasses, flintlock pistols, floating cannons from his pirate ships, the usual sets.
Oh, yeah. Magic resistance, riding, Voyager of the Storm. So, combines the effects of tactics and charisma. Okay. Pirate gentleman. Okay, because he was, he did have some valor and was very sort of brave. All right. Gale's plunder. How much excels one in piracy? Yeah, he really does.
I want to bring up, this is not related to Roberts, but in our last video we had the discussion on, or not last, it was a while ago, I think. I don't remember. The Francis Drake.
Yes.
We had there was that one skill that was the turning point of human history.
Yeah.
And you're like, does this apply to these other people?
Yeah, this would be one person I would have asked about.
But here's why.
Yeah.
I did look into this after. I figured I might as well bring this up now while we're still talking about pirates.
Okay.
Francis Drake gets that skill specifically for the circumnavigation of the globe. Francis Drake was the first person to fully complete it. Magellan got really close but died when he almost finished. Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that because I did look into it afterwards. I was like, that's something that should be brought up.
Yeah.
Looked into.
Yeah. Well, then theoretically, if we've got Cavendish, Cook, or Grant, they should also have that.
Were they...
they all circumnavigated.
Well, it's not just circumnavigation, it's the first complete one.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, no. And this isn't a skill that was particularly applied to just circumnavigating the globe. It's just very specific things that were turning points.
Okay.
But yeah, no. Just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah. All right. Noble Phantasm, Black Dirty Barty Howling.
So Roberts with this one surrounds his enemy with pirate ships and fires on them from all directions. It's more powerful the more time he has to tactically put into the maneuver.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right. Oh yeah, I opened up the artist to see if they'd done anyone else. Character designer Kukulin Caster and Diarmid Lancer and Sekhie Kojiro.
You like all of those?
I do, yeah. I do in fact like all those characters. All right. He does have some fun animations.
He's not so new that there shouldn't be a trailer for him, but he's a low rarity, and that's why we're using this one.
Okay. Makes sense. Oh yeah, kiss the cross. Get the blessing. God is on your side. Okay. Fun. Fun. Very fun. I'm liking it.
Thought you would.
Baseball! It's just like, yeah. He's just watching. I feel that. I really do. Alright. Let's see. Any extra art? Oh, one. Plate, necklace. Not much else, but we do have a few. Actually, quite a few. Yay. Alright. Pirates rule. Listen up. You can't get sloppy if you're going to live the pirate life. You shouldn't pillage as you fancy or drink as you please and lose control. You're going to have to forget those kinds of pipe dreams as a pirate. What's important are laws, rules, camaraderie. One for all and all for one. There's nothing you can do because you're a pirate, but there's a ton of things you can't do because you're a pirate. Knowing all that, do you still want to board my pirate ship? If you do, well, welcome to my pirate crew. I wish you nothing but success in making a name for yourself as a pirate. Nice.
May you one day betray me and steal one of my ships.
Oh. Oh, there he is.
Yep.
He's on the mast.
Yeah, he was part of that group in that chapter.
Yeah, I remember seeing this when we did Jason. Peekabang wigs. An item that made master and other servants say things like, "This is definitely creepy. This is seriously off-putting. What was he thinking? Put this on and anybody can be a master of Makakure. Or rather, maybe anyone can become a master when they put it on? An intense battle over wigs would surely ensue the moment a handful of servants realized this truth. But nobody seems to have figured it out yet." Buzzer beater. I mean, I see him, but I don't think I know the other character, do I?
No, you do not.
I don't know them, but there is no names in here, so. With only seconds left, the final shot to win the game is released as the referee's whistle echoes across the court. I am always angry in battle, but watch me, master. I will win a righteous victory. Okay, greatest ocean. Yep. So, this was the card art. So we saw this back when we did Bartholomew, and I said, "Oh, look, it's Ozzy." And you were like, "Yeah, it's Ozzy."
No.
And then later commenters were like, "That's not Ozzy."
No, that was Bartholomew Roberts.
Which...
Who's that in the background there? If you don't know, don't worry. But I can't see.
It's an old man. White beard, white hair, long, with beard going off like that.
Oh, I know who that is. Yeah,
Okay.
you don't know him yet.
Yeah. Hubba. Can someone, like, crop just this for me as a screensaver or something? Like, goddamn. Knowledge, experience, courage, initiative, and a little bit of luck. With all these men in place, it should be a cakewalk to find treasure. What's more crucial is what to do with the treasure afterwards. As per our written contract, the diver who found the treasure gets first dibs. But the captain's order is absolute, don't you think? Well, I am a pirate who loves the word monopolize, you know? Now, shouldn't you all behave yourself more like the gentleman of the sea? He deserves all the treasure. Give it to him. He gets it. It's his. Give it to him. Club Argonauts. Oh, yep, there he is. Right in the background there. No names, but we've already read this, I think, once before, so I'll skip it. Heroic Spirit Tour, Bartholomew Roberts. Oh, I think I might know where he is. That looks familiar. Yeah, Somerset Hospital, Cape Town, South Africa. Shares the same setting as Vritra and Himiko. Oh, Himiko, I remember hers. So it was up there, Bartholomew Roberts. 6th anniversary. I like that they're putting the full image down here because they weren't always doing that before on these. Like some of them, the full image isn't listed down here, and it's nice to see when there's multiple servants in the same. Like that one with, was it like Deermut or something, where they were all in the ocean behind him? That was funny. At the street corner of the decorating sea. Oh, that's nice. Oh, look, he's got a little Fran and a mash. And a master? With the bangs? Is it the male master, or is it just another character? Right there. Below Fran.
Oh, yeah. That might be the male master.
I just thought it might be. A seaside town, the scent of ocean in the air. Vividly colored buildings come and go, all in the blink of an eye. Here by his side, he has some absolute favorites. Then and now, this is all a pirate needs to be happy. I mean, honestly! Slay, King, slay. I love you. Probably one of my favorite of the pirates we've done so far. Yeah. Like, just really fun. I like it. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I get that, like, the joke might be overplayed, but at the very least from the vocal lines, it doesn't seem that creepy. Like, it just seems like more like he's... Keep in mind, I'm only...
You haven't actually read any of the stories with him in it, so there is that, too.
Okay, I know, but I'm saying it from the perspective of just seeing it like this. It doesn't seem creepy, like, obsessive, yes. Like, very obviously he has a type. But it doesn't seem like he's just off in a corner like Bartholomew Roberts, like... You know? No, not Bartholomew Roberts, like,
Blackbeard?
Blackbeard, going... You know? Anyway, so that's my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so I guess my hint for y'all is that I'm gonna go listen to Così fan tutte. And I'll see you next time.